Welcome to our weekly New Global Media Talk Show. Today is July 28, 2024. Today, we're going to be discussing about youth in leadership and youth empowerment. And we have our guest here, Ousman Camara, who is going to lead on to that discussion. And we're also going to discuss on conservation of mangrove ecosystem. So we have our guest here as well, Kemo, who's going to lead us to that discussion. So thank you both for coming. And I believe this is the first time meeting you, Ousman, but Kemo, we probably crossed paths in different discussion before, if I'm correct. Very good, very good.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I have my
Thank you.
co-host here, Famara Drammeh, Maryland. Famara, welcome.
Thank you, Sawaneh.
And Sam will join us later. And I'm your host here, Momodou Sawaneh in New York. So let's get right into it with the first part of the discussion. Youth in leadership and youth empowerment is a key. Gambia's youth population is almost 60, about 60%, which is really crucial. And it is important that we venture this area and make it work, to our advantage. So, Ousman, can you give us a brief, detailed insight of, youth in politics and youth development?
All right. Thank you so very much once again.
You can start
Mr. Sawaneh, thank you.
introducing yourself, and then you can jump into the topic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you once again, Mr. Sawaneh. Of course, I am Ousman Camara from the Gambia, of course. I hail from Katong, that is, of course, in the Kombo South, that is in the West Coast region of the Gambia. I'm a 400 level student at the University of the Gambia, and of course, I work with Support Our Own Gambian Foundation as the Chief Operation Manager. So, also into youth activism. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. So you can go ahead and lead the discussion, and then after Kemo will come and also introduce and then lead us into the second part of the discussion. Yeah.
All right. Thank you once again. The topic is quite very important, and that's why when I, of course, come across it, I said to myself, this is something that is actually important at this moment in time. We need to discuss about youths, how we can encourage them, and how we can inspire them to be involved in politics. The nature of politics at the time, and then until today, we are struggling to inspire the youth or motivate the youth to be in politics, because the mindset that many has, especially our old generations, is that politics is basically meant for the older people. So you have to wait until when you've grown up older, then at your 60s, at your 70s, at your 50s, there's a time one could involve him or herself into politics. So the narrative, we are saying that it has to change now. And then if the narrative changes, and we believe that there will be what we call more energy in our political arena, and then there will be more responsibility, that will be more effective as far as leadership is concerned. We believe as well, when you give the time and the opportunity to the youths, then they want to showcase the talents that they have. And this is something that we believe in Africa, especially, will help to propel our development agenda. But this don't come easy. We all understand that the nature of politics in the Gambia, especially, is quite sometimes very sad. The understanding level also need to be improved a lot. So we believe that youths that are coming up, they need to go to school. When they go to school, let them take the initiative of involving themselves into politics, so that at least they can get the experience, they can get the knowledge base that they deserve. And then as well, you will see that when they grow older with that kind of experience and knowledge, then it's going to be a very vibrant future. So these are some of the beliefs that we hope that when youths are typically involved in politics, it will bring. We are in the Gambia, for example, there's a case study, no doubt about that. You look at the life of the NPP, you look at the life of the UDP, you look at the life of PDIS. These are well in terms of history, we remember them, significantly, especially the UDP and then, of course, the PDIs. But now we look at the nature of leadership at the time and today. We have seen, when you look at, for example, the executive structure of these parties, you look at the youths number that are actually in the executive structure, you tend to understand that um, these party nature or the party structure need to change and to give chance to the youth so that they can come in and then have their say, because they have something that they want to offer. And then if you have something to offer, obviously you realize that, what can I do? What can I do is to give them the opportunity to empower them. You know what? For example, you have in the National Assembly today, I'm so excited when I see some of the youth, what's on Gambia would report, we have some of the youngest MPs in the National Assembly. That is beautiful. You have, Kebalan Fofana. This is fantastic. Or, former, MP of Nyamina, that is, of course, is in Nyamina East or West. That is, of course, Omar Ceesay is now in China for studies. These are youths that are indeed vibrant. Until today, people tend to remember them, what they have contributed a lot, what they have contributed during their term in the National Assembly. So this shows that when we give chance to the youths, when we give chance to the youngsters, they can significantly play a significant part in the development of this country. So that's why we are challenging to say, let's give these youths the opportunity to be involved in politics. And how do you keep them there? Is by giving them the position that they deserve. You don't just have to give somebody a position because the person stayed there for a very long time. What if the person don't have the knowledge base? He only got the experience, but what the office demands is in the hands or is in the reservoir of the young one. So that has to be understood. We understand. But if you just want to give, we have actually seen, and then we have also heard some of the difficulties we have faced in some of the leadership some of the political leadership. How do we actually come to terms? It is like, let's try to challenge this. Let's try to say, you know what? Don't just give that political position to somebody because that person stays in your party for a very long time. He has been there for the past 30 years. He has been there for the past 40 years. So that politics of compensation has to change. If you have a youth that is, of course, is vibrant, is brilliant, is actually hardworking, is committed to his or her duties, let's give, we are now, what we are advocating for, let's give such kind of a youth the opportunity. And we have the senior men that will be coaching and guiding and, of course, observing and monitoring, and coordination comes in. That's what we are calling for. But if you want to say the political leadership, the position is only meant for the older one, we are saying that we have experience enough in the hands of the older ones. They have not delivered. And that delivery issue is why we are now advocating that let the narrative change. Let the narrative change. Let it comes into the height of the youth. Then we see how it goes, whether this will be an opportunity for the youth now, so that they can say, you know what, it is now our turn. And when our turn comes, we need to set the bar high. And then in setting the bar high, you are now challenging them that you have actually been complaining that we have not been doing very well, and now the opportunity is yours now. We believe that when some of these things come into effect, there is going to be a massive transformation in terms of our political leadership.
Thank you.
Those are some of the things that I want to put across before I move on.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before I allowed anyone comes in with any question, I want to introduce our co-host here, Sam Ceesay. Sam, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. Thank you. Good to see you all.
yeah. So we are
Most
on
welcome. Thank you again.
we are on this in the discussion of youth in leadership and youth empowerment, the first phase. And we're gonna be talking about conservation of mangrove ecosystem, the second phase, who is the Kemo will be the this is our guest on that one. Yeah. So quickly, I just wanna ask this question, which is to say, let's give youth the chance, let's give youth the opportunity. You know, it's a very good, way to motivate, or it's a very good way to claim. Okay, if we see we have old politicians now, I mean, like in place for since like 20 something, 30 something years ago, they're still there. And we're saying that let's give you the chance, let's use, but they're still there. So we can be finger pointing on that, but we also wanna, we also wanna, like share the burden to everybody, because I think, Gambian youth are also not creative, and they are not self-motivating, because certain things are there. You cannot be given serve, in a silver plate. You have to really go after it. So if youths are, always talking about let's go to Babylon, let's go to the, I must go, abroad, otherwise I cannot succeed. Is that the mentality? Then how are youths gonna be empowered? Because you have to, when you look far, sometimes, what you are looking over there is right here. You just have to, find a way how to make it happen. One time I even posted that. I said, what we are looking for elsewhere are within us. We just don't know how to make it work. So you don't need, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to be creative. We have seen even on the social media, we see some kids are creating cars with their hands. They're creating planes. They're doing things that, the African kids that you cannot imagine. So the talent is there, but it has to be, explored on, and it has to be invested on. And then once the youths are able to do this creation, then other parties come in, like the government and other, NGOs should come in to help. We breed the talent, but somebody has to be willing to use their brain instead of sitting in the ghetto, smoking, drinking attire. I love to drink attire, but I don't drink attire because I want to sit down to the ghetto. I drink attire for health reason, just because it's healthy. So
That's right.
I think that's one thing that our youths need to be motivated. We need to change our mindset. If I don't go to Europe or Caritata Manta, I cannot make it. Europe is not meant for everybody. Look at people attest. Kemo and others can attest us that there are people who are well off in the Gambia than us. I'm telling you, some people are here. They are as poor as a kitchen rat, and they are in Babylon, or they are in Europe. Sam and Famara can attest to that. They even scared to go back home. They are shameful to go back home. And then they are more about Sanji Tansaba, Sanji Mo Abibant. While others are in the Gambia, they are, driving, they're working there. You go there and you say, boy, yeah. So it's about, it's sometimes it's us. So I will encourage the youths also to tap into the talent that they have, the creativity. Every man is given an ability on something. Every man has a talent. You just have to, man or woman, you just have to tap into it and get resources to help you grow that talent. But if you are lazy, you are everybody wants to be dependent instead of independent. So this is the problem with the Gambian youths. I mean, I've seen a lot of youths, but I feel like, yes, we can blame the government. How much we can be blaming the government for all of this? It's even impossible. We have to grow as a country. The government definitely has its own elapse, it has its own fault. But we as citizens also, we need to wake up and take charge of our country, take charge of our things. So you guys on the ground who are youth, you have to be set an example. So it's unfortunate recently what has happened. We have seen a lot of youths who are talking, they want to become presidents, they want to become leaders. Guess what happened? They bend down to power, and now they become suckers. They are told to do what they don't even, what they wouldn't have in their right conscious mind do. Because why? They feel that they cannot be creative themselves. They cannot create their own businesses. They cannot, they verge down to the politicians and beg on their knees for them. And these are people who we call Gambian pen, Gambian pencil, here and there, here and there. So our youth leaders who supposed to be our role model even fail us. Fail us. So what do you guys think? Gambia is definitely, we are in a serious problem. I don't want to mention names, but we've seen a lot of people who just stood up here, and we're clapping for them. And we are even empowering them as leaders. And what they do when they cannot create anything for themselves, they can, with all their doctorate degrees, with all their knowledge, what happened? They verge down and join, the system. And now they are part of the Kerenkafu system. So we can go on and on. Gambian's situation is pathetic, but I will allow others to come in and then Mr. I don't mean to put youths on in the spot here, but we have to speak the truth. We feel ourselves too. Yeah. So I will allow my colleague Sam and Famara to chip into this, and of course Kemo. Kemo is a youth too. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sawaneh, our guest Kemo and Ousman, and thank you, Sam, for joining us once again. Ousman, thank you so much. This topic is very important because the youths, as we always say, they are the backbone of our nation. The youths have a big role to play in national development. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't see the active participation of youths the way they should, and they are not well organized and doing things they should. It's not only in politics that youths can play a lot. I'm an environmentalist, and then I come from West Coast region. I'm from Brufut, and then you coming from Kartong. We have worked with a lot of youth organizations in Kartong when it comes to environmental protection. And one of them is the Kartong Association of Responsible Tourism. When I was working with the NEA, we had a very good projects with them in terms of coastal protection and, of course, responsible tourism, But now, when it comes to the community, before we go to the national level, we have to challenge ourselves at the community level. What are we doing as youths? Are we connected to our community? Are we doing something without being told, even at the political level, this is what we need to do in our community, and get responsible and start doing something about it? So I know you mentioned about organization, Ousman. Is it support our own what?
Yeah, support our own Gambian foundation.
Foundation, okay. Yeah, so, and you say you are the PR or whatever, right?
I'm Chief Operation Manager. Yeah.
Chief Operation Manager, very good. So these are all very good initiatives that we see our youths taking up. And I don't know what you're doing in Kartong in terms of motivating the youths. And if you say the youths come on board on politics, does the youths have an organization or a political body that we can encourage, or are you asking them to join the political parties that are already in existence? I'm not sure, but we need to have the youth participation. Kartong, for example, recently this illegal migration have claimed a lot of lives of young people from Kartong, Gunjur, and the surrounding in the Combo. Yeah. But what is responsible for this factor? Why the youths of Kartong want to move out? Why the people of Kartong are more concerned about climate change? Because we have seen a lot of sand mining have destroyed your community. Your community is now becoming very vulnerable to sea level rise. And some of your livelihoods have been affected, because I know Kartong is a very good area where people are engaging oyster farming or oyster collection, but also vegetable gardening. And now you have all of these areas that are mined. Now salt water is intruding into your agricultural land. What are the youths doing, to not only advocate for environmental protection, but also for the livelihood of the people? And what are the people of Kartong doing to ensure that government policies and programs are not impacting negatively to your livelihood? So these are very important, and it's a good start to see encouraging young people to come on board, to not only participate in the political level, but also to see that you are also taking charge at your community level to ensure that people and your ecosystems are protected, and then our livelihoods are also protected. So thank you so much for that. I think we'll get to know more about what as you speak, but these are some of the points in your own community that you are responsible for, that you don't need to wait for politicians to come. You don't need to wait for government to come. You can hold government accountable for some of the things that are happening. Are the youths of Khartoum in a better position few years ago than now? Are they well organized? Are you ready to take up challenge in your community so that people can take you seriously in what you're advocating for? Thank you.
Thank you, Famara. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, Kemo, you can just hold on to the answer anything yet until we finish with Sam, and then Ousman, you can hold on before you come in. Then with Sam, and then Kemo can just chip in quickly, and you can. Yeah.
Well, hello, and thank you all, really. Thank you for being here, joining today's program. It's always an excitement for me to see different people on the talk show here. So we really appreciate all of you and your time. So I will jump right into it and add a little bit, my little 2 cents to it. So Ousman was talking about the youths, and of course the topic is youths in politics and also youth empowerment. I would say I'll just add to what you guys said, and then Famara, thanks for bringing up the backbone of everything. You know, starting from the community level is always important. Youth engagement is very important in politics. Of course, the youths are the future leaders of our country, so we really need to make sure that we give them the real foundation from their childhood. By engaging them into things that we could do within the community to make them look like they are, to make them feel like they are leaders in the community, and engaging in all community activities there. And of course, get them into politics, you know, because they need to understand that, you know, they are the next generation. They need to be able to think about, you know, getting into politics and getting into becoming leaders, because one day one of them is going to lead as a president, and then there are many of them that could turn out to be ministers and governors and mayors and chairperson in the community. So they need to look at themselves in that direction and have that vision in their mind that this is where I want to go. But before you can get there, here's where you need to start. You need to start in your community. Show that respect. Show that you're committed to the community activities, so people can look at you as a leader in the future. Because if you take leadership role in the community, people are going to look at you as, wow, this is someone we can count on to continue to lead people. So getting into that is very, very important because, like I said, they are the future leaders. Now, on the flip side of that is I wanted to talk about the government's responsibility, what government can also do to empower the citizens and empower the youths. Because like Famara said too, a lot of youths lost their lives through this backward travel. It's really very tragic, and I feel so sorry and for the families that encountered this tragedy. It's very important for the government also to take steps and do something to stop this migration, because yes, it's a challenge, and I mean, I would say that anybody that took that route is because of certain reasons. They all have their own reasons. They are very ambitious. They think that they can go out and make a difference because they've seen their peers, and peer pressure is also putting pressure on them, going out to the back way and making something and turning around and developing their community, developing their families, and helping their families survive, because they did not have that opportunity, or they could not have any good opportunity in the Gambia to do that. So the role of the government takes place by creating avenues for the youth to get into where they can see light at the end of the tunnel. For example, I've talked about this in several occasions, where the government can really have like skill centers. I use the Army as a good avenue. When the youths come out of high school, get them into the Army to serve the country. But within the Army, I think the government can have a lot of skill centers in there, have some youths go into different fields where they can learn technical skills like carpentry, welding, mechanical engineering, roofing and flooring and painting and interior decoration, plumbing, electricians. I mean, you name it, all of these fields are out there. If they can get into the Army and have all of those sections in the Army where they learn all of those skills, I think it's going to make them better because they will have a future. They will see light at the end of the tunnel when they graduate out of the Army and with at least an associate degree there. They can open their own businesses and be part of youths that are going to help develop the country, because not everybody can be working for the government. The government cannot be the largest employer. The government has to create avenues for people. And when they go into the Army, get that little salary that they get out of there, but they're getting free education in the Army to learn skills that will enable them to come out of the Army and open their own business, whether it's welding or any of the skills that I mentioned earlier. They can get into all of this, and government can actually help them secure funds from banks to be able to get a startup fund to open their own business, and when they open their own business, some will go into that and become very successful there. And again, their peers are going to see that, wow, this is the route these people took. And I'm also going to take that. You will see youths from a primary level that are going to say, well, I want to do the same thing. I want to go into the Army. I want to learn these skills and get free education and come out while serving the country. And it really make a difference. And there are some that could actually work for the government, because I also talked about the government creating their own maintenance program where all of these things that the government needs. I mean, if you look at our hospitals right now, they need painting, they need some carpentry work done there, they need some flooring done there, they need all kinds of work there. They could be using these people while in the Army as part of their practicals. They could go and fix all government buildings free of charge, and the government will not have to pay any money, because now we're using our own people that we created free education for them to come and use their practicals, build schools, repair the hospitals, repair government buildings, in all these categories: electrical, plumbing, painting, building, and all of those skills. So I think there's a lot of prospect in there. So if the government can think about that, I think it will open up a pathway for our youths, and they will stop thinking about going backward, because they will have, if they think of having a future in the country, I think that's light at the end of the tunnel will encourage them to stay and do something for the country and for themselves.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that details insight about youth development. So, Kemo, if you have something, we can just add to that, or we can go back to Ousman. I think he get disconnected. All right, Ousman, just back to you.
Yeah.
You can you had all of our claims and then all of our observation on this topic. So you can wrap it up by stating any areas of clarity and or the recommendations that you think would help.
All right. Thank you so very much once again, Sawaneh, Mr. Sawaneh, or Dr. Sawaneh. It depends, basically. Once again, what I just want to emphasize, the first point of my argument was basically into youths in politics. Their empowerment levels into politics, so that is where we were basically focusing on. And then I want to push onto that as far as my presentation is concerned. We as youths currently, that what I just want us to understand, our setting currently is that the political participation of the youths, okay, the political engagement of the youths is quite little, is quite very, very small. And then I believe what we are actually advocating for is participations of youths in the politics, encouragement. Okay, we have seen the history is quite very clear that at the time, politics is certainly meant for the old people. And once you want to involve yourself into politics, you are discouraged. Okay, you are discouraged completely by your peers or your parents or people. The society itself will discourage you and said you are too young to be part to involve yourself into politics. So what we want that narrative should change. How do we change this one? Is by political parties inviting the youths to come and they pick up leadership, even if they cannot pick up the key positions in the political leadership. Then let's have something that can engage the youth, okay, that can put them on the spotlight, that can keep them in the motivating path. But once that is not actually there, then we have a problem. So we are saying that let the youths be engaged. And then are they engaged? We want them to engage in political discussions. Once again, how can they be engaged in political discussion when issues of importance are being discussed? We have typical sample of what? An assembly where we believe people of conscious mind, people of sound mind, people of brilliance, they can go and then of course represent, and then they can able to defend policies and of course defend the interests of this country. This is our argument, and that we want to believe that when things of this nature when opportunities are given, they can definitely lead the race. Then next on my discussion would be youth, empowerment. Many of the speakers, like for example, Mr. Sawaneh, and of course Drammeh and then Sam Ceesay has dealt into that already. It's all about what opportunity do you have for these youths. That is all. When they have the opportunity, they will never leave. But if the opportunities are quite very scanty, they are quite very small, you are forcing them to leave. We are not saying that they should, of course, leave anyhow. No, 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 no. We are saying that if they leave anyhow, that is definitely not the government's fault. But when opportunities are quite there, when institutions are there where they can go and work, when of course environment is created for them to take their skills, they can be uplifted, then there is no chance for them to blame anybody. But when these opportunities are not there, then they are compelled to go and seek for opportunity elsewhere. And how do this one comes into light? That is to say, the backway syndrome will come into being, because most of these youths that are there, they felt that the opportunities are quite very small. Mm-hmm. So if they were, for how long will they wait? That is the question now. For how long will they wait for what they want the government to do for them or the society to do for them? For how long will they wait? Their youths, their colleagues, of course, their peers are quite there. As of course, Mr. Drammeh has highlighted. Their colleagues are there. The peer influence is quite very strong in the Gambia. So if your friend is actually in Europe, for example, if you don't exercise patience, what comes to mind? You also want to force your way out. So essentially, in summary, what I just want to highlight is that if the opportunities are there, if the environment is created for the youths in skills, for example, in carpentry, in tailoring, in hairdressing, and all sorts of skills that are there, if they are created in abundance, I strongly hold the view that the migration rate, or what you call any forms of illegal thing that is, of course, detrimental to life, or that is, of course, not in line with sound mind, it will be limited significantly. And of course, that's what we all yearn for. So support our own Gambian foundation where I worked. That is what we yearn for. We want to uplift, we want to support, and we continue to do that when we realize that you have a skills that we can support you. We have supported book writers, say people that are involved into writing. We have supported them. People that are into business and their business are not quite very strong. They want financial support. We support them. We want people, students, of course, that do not even have a skills. Okay, they don't know what path to take as for career. we go to schools and of course give them what you call mentoring program. This is all geared towards giving them that, of course, that direction that will of course yarn them a very fruitful and of course a very successful future for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Kemo, let's see if Kemo has anything towards the youth before we transition to that. But yeah.
Yes, quite interesting.
I think he's frozen.
Perspectives leader myself. Frozen. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're good now. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just saying, the insights that I was getting as a youth leader myself here. I think what we are not factoring in is actually, the living standards of the people here. My great-grandfather was a farmer. My father is a farmer. My grandfather a farmer. And it's still the same poverty circle that is, revolving here. I have worked as a senior project officer in one of the most ambitious waste management projects, and I get paid $250 per month. Assuming that I keep my $250 pay for a period of 10 years plus, that's when I'll be able to get $20,000 saved. So the pay grades are not motivating enough even for those elite that are up there. So at the end of the day, it is triggering everyone here to be in a survival mood. People are not serving because they want to serve. People are in positions because they need to find ways that they can be able to make life for themselves. So when I served at the local government area, what I realized is that every last one of my senior supervisors is actually looking forward for a better life. They are looking forward to getting money, getting sorry, I think there's a call coming in. Let me just put this on do not disturb. So this is what is really affecting us here in the Gambia. It's about, what we see other people being able to do in a short period of time when they leave this country. Most of the people living in comfortable homes have people out there. €1 is equivalent to $60, $70. So at the end of the day, even if you're working in Gambia, you are tempted not to do the right thing. So in council, I have seen, where my seniors are taking revenues that are supposed to be from council for their own daily living. And when you go after them, when you go after it for it to be put back there, at the end of the day, you are seen as someone who is trying to witch hunt or who is trying to do this. So this has become a problem. And politics for us, the young people, I would say that, it feels a lot more dangerous for us at this moment. Whenever we see politics happening in our communities or people talking about it, even if we get involved, it goes to a little bit of a toxic level. People will begin to insult. So at the end of the day, there isn't that understanding between our politicians and the people themselves. It seems like every time there's a discussion between politicians, they dump our people down by the issues that they discuss. They don't bring the problems to us that needs to be talked about, but rather they bring those petty talks that are between them and themselves. So this is why it is very much demotivating for some of us to actually, engage or participate in a meaningful level into the politics. We are actually afraid to be castigated by our own people simply because of the level of understanding. Most of the people who know this and understand this are people who live outside of the Gambia, understand these dynamics, and see the issue from above. But once you live here, you are actually, locked up in that, circle where you cannot really escape. It's like our thinking is imprisoned in the predicaments of the present. The fact that we are on survival mode, we are not able to get to any meaningful gain. And this is a problem. This is what we are facing here as a nation. The littlest things that we can do to help ourselves is not really working. Nowadays, if you have to farm to be able to get yourself somewhere else, you need inputs. The God-given right of having the seed in the ground no longer works for us in Gambia. We need inputs like fertilizers created by other people from the far side of the world that my parents need to now purchase in order to be able to grow the food that they have. So the situation is dire. But the problem is that the politics is not changing it and it's not offering a solution. Every time we hear politics, they talk about things rather than the ideas that should move forward. So this is where I see the fundamental problem. It's about the ideas that is being sold to the people rather than Dabo versus Barrow. So every time there is politics, they talk about people rather than the ideas. And this has been going on for quite some time, even from statesmen in our country. And I think this is where the reflection should be with young people going further. I think that's my insight from that discussion. And over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Well, Ousman can come in and then kind of like if you want to add up that so we can transition to the next topic.
Thank you so very much, of course, Kemo. I think what you stated, that is the reality on the ground, to be honest with you. Policies or politics of policy is something that we are fighting tooth and nail. We want politics to be a politics of policy. You present your policy to the people, let them read it and understand. You need to start actually educating the electorate. Let them understand that it should not be about insulting. And that's why the brilliant mind had to run away from politics, because when you involve the understanding in this country, it's really very sad. And that's why it is always difficult for the youths to be involved in politics. Very difficult indeed. These are some of the constraints the youths are facing today. Because as a youth, you said to yourself, you want to involve yourself engage in politics, and somebody elsewhere is there insulting your parents. And you find it so much demotivating, so discouraging. And then what comes to mind is that, you know what, it wasn't worth it. So you will have those brilliant minds that will run away. And then you are now going to live with who? Those that are not educated at all. People that are not actually, they are not progressive in terms of their thinking. What they will, and then one day they will come into power. When they come into power, they will rule you and me. So it's about changing the mindset of the population. Once the mindset of the population change, we believe that there will be a significant progression in the right direction. So these and other some of the things that I will submit. And of course, I wish to thank you guys significantly for giving me this opportunity to share my little thought on the issue at hand. That is, of course, youth in politics and, of course, youth empowerment. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ousman, for your time. Definitely. We'll catch up on this definitely another time in depth. But you can stick around while we just wrap up the ecosystem if you want. Okay, or
I wish to stay, but a lot of things, a lot of fishes to fry though.
okay,
so
okay, definitely go fry those fishes, and then hopefully you pass some to us later.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
Well, we thank you and appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
We have any more fish in the carton? The Chinese have...
Thank you. So we let Kemo come.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. So Kemo, you can just jump in and then give an introduction of yourself, and then get into the topic as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Kemo Fati. I'm a conservationist here in the Gambia. I also work extensively on the Great Green Wall Initiative, which is one of the world's most audacious climate change initiative, actually involving a stretch of 8,000 kilometers of restored ecosystems from Senegambia all the way to Djibouti. And also I work together with local organizations on the ground, the Gambia Environmental Alliance. I also co-founded Green Up Gambia, one of the country's apex environmental bodies. And as well as I work with, in terms of policy, both at national and international level, engaging in both the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and as well as the Convention on Biodiversity and Drought. So essentially, just on the 26th, we did celebrate the International Day for the Preservation of Mangrove Ecosystems. And this day we planted about 6,000 mangroves, close to Tanbe wetlands, together with the US Embassy and some other environmental groups and the National Environment Agency. So this event was geared towards just raising awareness about the significance of this day and ensuring that, people get reminded of their responsibilities and also bringing to light what these wetlands are doing for us in the long run. These wetlands are one of the greatest carbon sinks that we have, but we've seen that they've been threatened with dieback. And one of the things that we've also realized is that wetland restoration is pretty easy, but almost 80% of all wetland restorations globally fail. So as a result, there's a lot of nitty-gritties that we need to look into. And this is why we try to kind of raise awareness on this day by engaging in this subtle planting and also talking about how we can restore these ecosystems. And mangrove restoration is not very new in the Gambia. It's been ongoing for quite a long time. And recently, I'm happy that, a little bit of chaos came into it. I remember some time back in the Africa Climate Week, we did point out carbon credits to be a false solution. More and more, I'm beginning to believe that, because if you look at in the St. Louis Basin in Senegal, people are paid 200 to 300 CFA francs for restoring these valuable ecosystems, getting almost next to nothing from this funding that comes from carbon credits. But elsewhere in Colombia, people are really getting ethical carbon credits and communities are being uplifted in a very good way. So every time that these things come to, it's like, for instance, with carbon credits, I see it as a recolonization of Africa. We can come in and engage in cheap ecosystem restoration, paying cheap labor to these communities, not even investing more into community infrastructures, but yet still there is no proper benefit sharing mechanism with these communities. We've realized that even the Gambia itself has made, a very terrible deal with a Danish company to have, exclusivity rights. It's just recently that the Ministry of Environment has pondered upon establishing a carbon trading bill, and which of course is a step in the right direction. But all of these things are crucial things that really requires us to kind of have more of these kinds of action when it comes to mangroves and discuss more so that we can pave way for an ethical restoration, one that looks into the needs of communities and the people whose livelihoods are depending on these ecosystems. So that was basically our action over the past, yesterday, in Tanmi wetlands, planting 6,000 mangroves together with stakeholders.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would like to, before I allow Famara and then Sam come in, Famara is also very seasoned in this area. A layman like myself who might know what mangrove is, of course. Mangrove is something is there are trees that are next to the water, right? Right. If I'm mistaken, where the birds and other things breed. I used to fetch firewood, so I probably would be encountering with these mangroves, correct? So these are the things that we are losing in our environment, and you guys are going to plant them so that they can be good for our survival. You mentioned that these wetlands are doing something good for us. I don't think many people understand what are these good things. So if you can elaborate on that a little bit, and the importance of these mangroves.
Excellent. So these mangroves, what they are doing, like there are different kinds of mangroves. So in the Gambia, basically, we are almost divided into two by a river. So inside the river, you have mangroves. These are the red mangroves, Rhizophora. They are always in permanent water, but you have some mangroves that are not in permanent water, but just close around that. So these roots of these mangroves and the ecosystem in itself is a breeding ground for biodiversity. There's the water, the marine ecosystems are more biodiverse than the land. There is more creatures. Like my mother used to tell me a story as a child that alaya bulufafula, I will like a bakon, but tinto kai killing the malaka water. It explains the scientific connotation of the biodiversity below the water. So these mangroves are providing valuable breeding ground for fish. They're providing a habitat for wildlife. And best of all, the mangroves are the fastest way to carbon sink. These trees are taking carbon from our atmosphere and storing it in the fastest way. So at the end of the day, they are like not just providing food and all what we need, they are solving one of the greatest crises of our time, which is this climate change. So if we can be able to, have more areas on the mangrove cover, it provides, more space for carbon sequestration. We have to understand that land is the greatest carbon sink. Before anything, all this carbon was under the land. And the best way, the best mechanism is forest, whether mangrove forest or tropical forests. These are the fastest or the best technology we can employ for carbon sinking. So this is what the mangroves are doing for us. And yesterday, where we planted, these are the Tanbe wetlands. In the Gambia, we always keep on complaining about our infrastructure, whether we have floodings or whatever. These mangrove ecosystems are also serving as a hydrological buffer. So if there's excess rain, this is what prevents the flooding. It sucks in most of this water such that we can be able to live in our environments nicely. And if there is any kind of, flood or whatever tsunami, if you see how mangroves are able to stop this flooding, by acting as some kind of a sponge or something, stopping this water from just wiping off our coastal areas. Imagine 10% of the world's population lives within 10 meters of sea level. So should in case that sea level rise by 1 meter, we are going to displace almost 900 million people. So these ecosystems are not just, ecosystems and in itself. They are holding our lives, they are holding our food, they are holding almost everything that has to do with life. These things are holding. So the importance of mangroves cannot be overemphasized. It is the very essence why our aquatic habitats are alive. So mangroves really are not just anyhow trees. They are miraculous trees. Miraculous trees in a sense that from food and firewood and fuelwood needs, they are also so good at removing carbon. These are some of the most important or significance of mangroves, I would say. But also you have to look at 200,000 people's livelihoods in the Gambia is depending on inland fishing and all of whatnot. So most of these women that you see here, the Serele, they are depending on these mangrove ecosystems. The tri-oyster women making a living from this. We all know what pan and yohos is. If you go to some parts of Spain, you will pay $5 for an oyster, which is just one or two of these big oysters. So when I go and buy $1 worth of oysters from these women, and I see how much oyster they give me, it's funny. I'm like, the idea is that these people are already rich. Rather, what should have been done is to connect these people to markets, make sure that we have the available tools so that they can be able to sell these valuable commodities at a higher price, increase their living standards, and also have some level of purchasing power to develop themselves. So basically, we have high value commodities here, but we are not able to open channels or markets for these local fishermen to be able to sell their products at challenging prices. Rather, what's being done is that we have the Chinese and their trawlers in our rivers dredging the bottom and selling it for what should have been the market of these locals. So mangroves are really, transformational if only we can harness it in the right way, if we can be able to properly harness what these ecosystem goods and services are providing.
Okay. Yeah, so I will allow Sam, Famara and Sam to come. But one more thing is that I know I came from Badibu. That's how I encountered this mangrove. Sometimes we go there, we go there, go and do tilapia, we will create a pond, like we put our hand there and then we're gonna be grabbing fish, and all of that not, So I can relate to the benefits of this mangrove. And then like you said, they have sand around the area where the water is sucked. And then, in fact, some of the, these animals like crocodiles and stuff like that, we live around that area. It creates a temperature, like a cool temperature for them. I could picture the importance of this mangrove. And then another important thing is that you can get firewood from that, because I did a lot of that. So the extension of it is really important. So are you planning to do it across the country, or are you just focusing on one area? Because I know the Gambia has river across the country. So
yeah, it's already happening across.
Where
it's
there
already
are salt
happening
water,
across the country.
where there are salt water, you can do this. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, definitely. It's already happening across the country, rather mostly active in the South Bank. So in the North Bank, we've just started to do this, but you have to know that there's significant dieback because of infrastructure problems. So I know Famara is here. I'm friends with the NEA. I love the NEA, but sometimes some of these blunders and diebacks is due to engineering problems. Sometimes I ask, but who was in charge here? You find out that they've put a dike or a road in between, and the whole entire ecosystem is just lost due to hypersalination. So at the end of the day, the mangroves that you know when you were a child, where alkata kanji sol muta damento and then you frol, sai won mantara caring because ninta for la time na dindia wato, ngata crab muto lan dangan, ndata damento kuno. Sai ndata jenga tara nunto mankol be faren damento fo jebe dibering, o mankol bebe disappear kan. Firewood mengal kafo, mul fanankata kanyi mankol kuntu, not just for firewood, but also for roofing and all of that. So there's significant dieback. They are now completely threatened. If you probably go to the same place where you used to go as a child, you will understand why, in fact, we are actually restoring this. It is getting more and more serious than I would say. Before, like, let's not even go far. Look at the bonga. Before, 1 or 2 bonga will be more than 2-3 kilos. Nowadays, you only see small bonga. When I see a bonga, I get scared because I remember buying yassa as a child. You know, I get half a bonga. Nowadays, that fish that day, it can't even fit in my palm. And that's simply because we are not giving this ecosystem breathing space. We are not giving them room. So what I'm talking about here is to bring to you the sobering reflection that this is no longer going to be here. Despite the fact that we have potentials of mangroves happening, but can you imagine the whole River Gambia becoming a mangrove estuary? That is not also good for us. But I should tell you that salt water, because mangrove thrive in salt water is all the way now in Kuntawur. That's more than half the navigable length of the River Gambia. So that means that I'm expecting mangroves in Basse, Santa Su in the next coming 10 years, because the salination will move upwards. And mangroves, most importantly, are filtering salt. Some of these species are there to actually help create that balance, such that we don't have hypersalination. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the River Gambia currently is much more saltier than the Atlantic Ocean. That is what I found out with our little testing machine that we are seeing here. We did ask some scientists about what's the reason behind this, but I'm yet to find something concrete that explains why this hypersalination is happening. So it's very much worrisome, like Sir Dawda said. This is a sobering reflection for us. When I sleep, I cannot wake up, you know, because I know that the Gambia that is already divided into 2 by a river, there will be a day when we will be counting day 0 of water in Gambia here, fresh water. Everyone around Gambia here is digging boreholes. We are counting on water that has been stored for thousands of years. We are digging it up through our boreholes when we have surface water lying everywhere. But because we have a river, no one cares. The government has already approved to build a dam in Sambangalu. The River Gambia is one of the last undammed rivers. Now we have a dam there. Of course, this is going to affect the flow of fresh water. So therefore, we are at a critical juncture. We should not just talk about these mangroves like we are celebrating them. We should talk about this like a doomsday scenario is coming. Not just our mangrove forests have disappeared, also our natural woodland forests have also disappeared. Between 1965 and 2001, 100,000 hectares to over 320,000 hectares at the expense of our natural forest. And we only have 428,000 hectares of forest remaining. And of all this, 70% of it is degraded in some form. We have names like Jato, Suluo, Solo in our local language. These are wildlife that used to be on the surface of the Gambia here. Now, we no longer have them. My concern and my fear is that my children may not even see monkeys or lizards, because we have seen they've almost gone to the monkey park and wanted to take the whole monkey park away. So at the end of the day, the concern that we need to give to nature is not showing up. It's not commensurating even in terms of our policy documents or what needs to be done. Right now, we're supposed to be terrified to the last dot. A place where elephants used to be, we are crying for ordinary antelopes. So this is a sobering reflection, as Jawara has put it 45 years ago. And I am here again after 31 years, reiterating the same thing. So when will this become a serious concern? When will this change? Because we're talking about the forest, when are we going to see the impact? This is my only worry. So as we are busy planting these mangroves, trust me, there is more forest being degraded, you know? So in fact, let me give a classical example of Nyanabere Forest Park. The amount of carbon in this forest, even if you add all of my restoration work, not just what I have done in the past 8 years, but add what I will do in the next 25 years, it's not going to be compared to the amount of carbon that is already sequestered in Nyani Bore. So it's more logical for Kemo to stop planting trees and we protect what's left of it. That should be our primary focus in Gambia. Not to plant a single more tree, but to focus on protecting what we already have. Because a doomsday scenario is coming and a day zero of water is also coming. And this is something that we need to be aware of. And that's why these actions of planting mangroves is here to always remind us. This is why we continue doing these small actions. It's not the action that matters, but the fact that it stays in our mind and we recognize it. This is what is going to take us from strength to strength.
Wow. You scared me. You scared me about the water.
You should be scared. I'm always terrified, but people are not recognizing this. It's apparent we can see.
When you mention that your salinity water has moved to Kuntauru area, that is, that is scary because there will come a time then it will probably, like you say, it will get to Basse and we will not have fresh water anymore. And then now the Jahari Pachar projects and some which we talk about will be gone forever.
Well, I think that salt will move further upstream. Famara is a specialist, I would assume. He has worked with the NEA and they have seen already, to a greater extent what is happening. The National Environment Agency is fully much aware. I have been working with them and sometimes, they are really doing their job. But here's the cool thing. If the National Environment Agency takes action against any kind of perpetrator doing any kind of thing, they go to court and then they realize that, you get told by the judge that the case has been withdrawn by the state. So me, when I saw that, I still don't understand. It's like we don't need National Environment Agency anymore because they are being overpowered. Like, the state withdraws a case against a perpetrator. Why should that be the case? Only to be told that. So these are some of the problems here. But every time that we want to speak about this, for instance, if I speak about the facts the way it is, today I'll be castigated in the issue of, yes, these are political things. These are to a point that even speaking truth as it is in Gambia is becoming very difficult. If you talk about our own collective good, it seems as if you are being political or you're trying to stain someone else. So this is why sometimes some of us are even silent in our corners and, hoping for the best. But this is the reality here. There are lots of things that I should say directly going to the Gambia government themselves with regards to our environment. They have been the sole destroyers of our environment, from naming the conference center Sadauda Jawara, taking 82.5 football fields from the Nyanabere Forest Park, selling sand, within our valuable ecosystems in Banjul, desiccating all of that, aquatic ecosystem. We've seen all of that here, and we're still seeing it. But what can we do? If I speak today, I'm behind bars, or I'm somewhere locked up, and I have a daughter. We are still back into that same Gambia, in case you didn't notice. Police officers are dead. People who swear to protect lives and property, they are dead. And now their colleagues of police are here watching. We all know that this boy did not kill those police officers. Everybody knows this. But who do you see speaking? So I say that dictatorship is back. We better know what we have to say before all of us are going to be killed like those police officers and answers would not be found. This is the Gambia that we are living in today. This is why, it's pretty much scary for us as a whole. But we cannot afford to lose hope, but we cannot also challenge the state. This is something we can't do. We can just restore our restoration, but that's where it will end. As I'm speaking to you now, only God knows the kind of, hurdles and battles that we are going through with different levels of political players, all the way down from the highest authority coming down, not to mention name, but these are serious, serious things happening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kemo. You gave us a lot. So I think we can start with Famara because he's also sitting on this, and then Sam can come in. Sam is also taking notes. My head is full right now. You guys go ahead. Famara, you can come in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bakimo. You said it all. There's not much to add on to what you said, and that's the actual scenario happening in our country right now. I don't know, Kemo, we've not met before, but I've shared a couple of platforms, environmental platforms with him. And I want to thank him so much for what he's doing for our country and what he is contributing towards environmental protection and also educating the youths, especially the school-going kids. because they have a program called the summer tree planting, which they go around schools and other communities, trying to plant trees, but also educate, showing different SDG, goals to the communities and to the school kids, how, the biodiversity status was 45 years ago and how it is right now. So they're doing a lot of advocacy in the country. And he mentioned about the Great Green Walls, which is one of the, the AU is trying to do across Africa, like he said, from Senegambia to Djibouti. And then, of course, we have actually worked together in the protection of monkey park. We all know the monkey park is one of those highly ecological sensitive areas we have in our country. Thanks to the Gambia government and the German forestry program back then, they invested a lot of time, energy in terms of protecting that visual forest park. But like he said, sometimes, most of the time, it is our government that is, I think maybe some of the institutions are very ignorant when it comes to environmental protection. They don't coordinate. Our institutions are not working collectively to ensure that the policies and the laws that we create in terms of protecting our biodiversity and environment are protected and also implemented. Because when you look at taking 7 hectares of the Bigelow Forest Park for a conference center, for example, like Kemo said, I was working at the NEA when the previous government, tried to take this land for a conference center. In fact, the idea came from President Drammeh when he wants to have the conference center built. He never consulted the National Environment Agency, I can tell you for fact. And then when we heard about that announcement, we were all shocked. And we were surprised that such an ecological sensitive area is identified for such a big project. But we said maybe with time he will come back to us, then we can advise, But thank God it never happened at this time. And we thought this new government will look into, the issue properly and then maybe, seek some advice before doing that. But 7 hectares of the land has gone because we have a very endangered species of primates living in forest park. For example, the red colobus monkey, for example, 2008 International Union for Conservation of Nature endangered list of species. So when you create such an environmental or ecological disaster in a highly ecological area like that, then obviously it's not only impacting on biodiversity conservation, but it's also impacting on the tourism, because a lot of tourists that visit the Gambia are nature lovers. These are the people who wants to see that red colobus monkeys in their natural habitat. But now we have the tourism ministry and the local government alliance that are taking this land without even following the right procedure, because the National Environment Agency was not informed until when Kemo and his group started making noise. That's when NEA was involved, and then they wrote to the Ministry of Tourism to ask them to stop this bulldozing until NEA was informed. And then they work stuff for like a couple of weeks, and then later they started going back to doing the same work that they've done. Whatever arrangement they did with NEA was never open, because they never had an environmental impact study done. Because if they did that, then the plight of the monkeys would have been, highlighted in the environmental study. And of course, the ecological and social management plan would have been highlighted. They would not have monkeys, loitering around in the street of Senegambia, jumping from one hotel to another, trying to look for water and food to eat. Then we would have the Bigelow Forest Park having a very good, tourism information center that will provide information to tourists that are visiting this area. So all of that is not happening. So that is something that we need to protect, and that's why we have the Minister of Environment. No matter what decision comes from, high level, they have to respect that there is a Minister of Environment in place, and their job is to protect our environment and the species we have. So the Minister of Environment cannot overlook those procedures that they are ignoring them to do things on our environment. Now, coming to the mangrove, which is the topic of the discussion. And again, we want to thank the Green of Gambia for restoration, that degraded area. like a Bond Road. And this happens to be a protected area as well. Tambi National Park is one of the second Ramsar Convention sites we have in Gambia. Ramsar Convention is, we have an international convention on protecting wetlands of international importance, which is a international convention, and the Gambia is a signatory. We have taken that obligation that we are going to protect our wetlands in the Gambia, and the Tambi wetlands and the Bone Road area, the ecosystem is part of it. But look at what is happening with the port expansion project. How many mangroves did they clear from the Bone Road area trying to expand the port? Is that good for the ecosystem there or not? The National Assembly was built in a western wetland ecosystem. They had to, degrade that area for the National Assembly to be built. And all of these areas have not followed the right procedure. A few years ago, about 2000, government spent over $20 million trying to protect our coastal protection from Banjul to Cape Point, all the way down to Senegambia. It cost the Gambia government at that time $20 million to do that. We had to do a biometric survey. We have to do hire a Royal Haskonen, a Dutch company, to come and restore the beach area. Bring the sand from inside the ocean to do a beach nourishment around the Senegambia area, and of course from State House coming down to Atlantic Hotel, coming down to the Muslim and Christian cemetery. So all of those is happening. And a lot of studies have also mentioned that Gambia, especially Banjul, is very vulnerable to the increase in sea level rise. And those evidences are clear there. You all see when there is too much rain in Banjul, how much that area is affected. So whatever restoration they are doing, and Kemo also talk about the saltwater intrusion. Now, if this saltwater is moving towards the CRR, where our high number of our hippopotamus are residing, so that means that biodiversity is also soon going to be affected.
Yeah.
Because the hippos cannot survive in salty water due to their skin, So if they spend most of the time in the water, and in the evenings they come out and graze, right? And then when they out in grazing, they are in people's rice fields, So that conflict, human-wildlife conflict, is happening there. The Sambangalu Dam, is going to affect Gambia more because that dam is all the way down in Futa Jalon. So those people coming down to Senegal will enjoy, but the Gambia, most of the water coming from that end is coming to River Gambia. So once you created a dam, the flow of water, the water regime and the water flow is going to be less. So that's also contributing into saltwater intrusion, because now we don't get a lot of water, fresh water, that is flushing this salt water, out. But now the saltwater intrusion is more than the fresh water flow coming to the River Gambia. So that's going to cause a lot of environmental problems that our country is going to face. So Kemo have said it all. And one thing I want to ask Kemo in this fight against climate change, and you talk about the carbon bill, which the Ministry of Environment recently introduced, and then looking at the role of NGOs in that carbon credit bill, because I've seen that the ministry is taking a center stage. In fact, they have more power in terms of how that carbon credit should be managed. I don't know how do you see that as an active environmental NGO active, and also been representing the Gambia at the International Climate Conference, and you're seeing how stories from different countries, especially those from developing countries, how climate change is impacting on their livelihood. Do you see Gambia benefiting more from this carbon credit? And if so, are the local communities going to benefit from that? And how is it going to help with the overall restoration program that is being done by community-based organizations and NGOs in the Gambia? So maybe, Kemo, you want to, I don't know, maybe you have...
Yeah.
In
Definitely. That is a fantastic question, Famara.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fantastic question. And here is the case, when it comes to this carbon credit and this carbon trading bill, I, for one, have lost hope, because already there has been a carbon trading already here in the Gambia with a Danish company. And the communities that have been involved in, when I asked, what is the benefit sharing mechanism, I was told 100%. And, you know, coming from the Gambia Famara, these are the kind of mediocre things that we should go away from. There is nowhere in this world where benefit sharing mechanism is 100%. So when you tell that to even donors, even the people that we were there in, they looked at us like, you know, what's happening in Gambia? You know, so this is a significant problem.
We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's under this Red Plus issue. So this should be really taken very seriously. You know, our communities are the ones doing most of the bulk of this work. So sometimes I see that even at central government level, things that we can handle are handled by high state government officials. I'm like, yo, Kemo can do this. Why do we have to employ our high dignitaries and state officials to do basic things? Exactly. I see the entire Gambia government here calling on the media and the state. They're talking about how to stop timber. And sometimes I think that even the Senegalese themselves, they are also fools. I'm deviating a little bit of topic, but just look at this. We have only one point of entry. I, Kemo, alone can stop timber export in the Gambia. It doesn't take any much. All it takes is a chair to sit at Denton Bridge. Where else those containers pass through? So logical things, they come and bring in papers and make discussions as if it's a big problem, but it's not. You know, it's just basic things. There's always resources and money involved. So at the end of the day, somebody somewhere wants to kind of just enjoy or chip into those kinds of things. You know, when we talk about, for instance, you know, coastal restoration, for instance, you know, we see that the NEA is supporting us to do this, but the NEA doesn't need to restore the coastline. They're busy doing more important stuff. So what we can do is to help them keep the survival of these things. So this carbon trading is merely more of the same. You know, we need to have the communities to be able to hold their own restorations. Since the Department of Forestry is turning forests back into joint community management, let them allow communities to take the lead. Government and all international stakeholders should stop patronizing our communities like we cannot do it ourselves. Every time they come to our communities, the idea is they come with their SUVs, establish their project management unit. They stay in our communities for 3 years, driving their SUVs. When they are gone, they only leave a signboard here. You know, a big iron signboard, something, water management project for 3 years. And when you ask the locals, what's this? They will, Ilao project, all what. The locals don't even see it as something of theirs. They see it as this is their project. So these things should stop, even at the highest level. You know, we don't have to see the government involved in planting mangroves. That's wrong in essence. We don't need to see the National Environment Agency planting mangroves or planting trees. Since the existence of Green Up Gambia, we had more than 50 environmental organizations. People are inspired. Communities are inspired. They're taking action in their own place. Rather, what could be done is to create this consensus for us to understand what needs to be done. They need to upskill those people and give us the technical knowledge that is required to restore our own things, not to come there and do it for us. And the reason why they even come and intervene too much is all because of this, I will call it money, the Benji issues. And this is the problem that should stop when it comes to restoration. You spoke about Tanbi wetlands. I forgot to mention that Tanbi wetlands has been sold. You know, most part of Tanbi wetland has been sold. Who has that been sold to? It is no known secret. Even today, when I was crossing in Banjul, I saw heaps of sand. They backfilled the wetland and built on it. So we have seen these things happening, you know. At the end of the day, if this was, let's say, in the middle of London, I would have put forward one last protest to say, okay, this is the last time we will see this. Let's close this chapter. Let's go home and
Yeah, I think he's frozen a little bit. Oh my goodness. Wow. Unbelievable. Famara, you know that place that he was talking about that it was being sold?
I'm going to Banjul. Between Old Joshua and Dentonbury, going all the way down to the Bond Road. It's all part of Tambik wetlands. It's extended all the way to Laming. All the way some back, I think Mandina is somewhere going all those sides. So it's a big area. So it's protecting the wetlands, you know, of the Gambia. So, like he was saying, some areas were, were sold by the Minister of Local Government and Land, and it's one of those areas that Ahmad Bah has set up commission, to investigate how those lands were sold. So a protected area that is protected by law. No institution, no government institution have the right, to sell those land. So it's just crazy. I don't know who is giving them those powers under the watchful eye of the Minister of Environment. So it's absolutely crazy, and this has been going on. It looks like our government institutions are not talking to each other, So the lands Minister of Lands think they have the right over all government lands, So this means they can even go to a protected area or a forest park, and go and do something there that is not incompatible with conservation objectives, So this is the problem we have, So it's just crazy how the environmental, problems we have in our country, and yet, nothing's been done. People don't care, and then the work has not been, protected. So obviously, we need to continue to advocate and sensitize no matter what, because people are very ignorant of environmental laws in the country. Just look at somebody killing the hippo and giving it to the president, not knowing that they are violating the Wildlife and Biodiversity Act, and the president accepting that too. It's a clear violation. And if you go to the National Environment Management Council, the chairman is the president is the chairman of the Environmental Management Council, and then with all these big five ministries, the finance, the foreign affairs, the environment, and and the other institutions, they're all part of the Environmental Management Council. So I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, how things are going. But thank God the youths are coming up. The environmental NGOs and CBOs are doing well, fantastically well. And I think mangrove restoration, there is bigger success rate in mangrove restoration, because if you plant a mangrove, I can tell you probably 80-90% all survive, if not 100%. Yeah. Probably, so it is improving a lot in the environmental restoration. If you go to the South Bank, like Kemo said, if you go to around Kiang area, the Bruman Bridge, there is a fantastic restoration in the last few years. It's coming up very nice. And the fish population is now increasing in those areas. Those local communities are now enjoying in fishing. I've seen the benefits of mangrove restoration. So yeah, let's hope that this will go further down, even to the North Bank and to some part of West Coast, especially in our area in Brufut, and of course in Khartoum restoration. Yeah. Okay, Mo.
Yeah.
My connection is a bit shaky. So
we're gonna wrap. Kemo, if you can, if Sam can come in, then you can wrap it up if you don't mind. You can.
Well, I won't say much here because Kemo has said it all, and Famara, between the two of them, they really have said it all, and I can tell, and we know that this is your area of expertise, and I would even recommend that people like Kemo, especially in the Gambia, to be really put on television programs to talk about the environment. I think our problem in Gambia is the lack of knowledge and the ignorance about environment. People don't know about the environment. They don't know the consequences of environmental damage or anything that can cause a damage for our future. And we need the environment to be able to live in our society. So I think this is something that really, and I'm glad we're having it here, New Gambia Global Platform here. I think a lot of people will listen to this and say, wow, because everybody's going to learn something that you didn't know, and including me. I didn't know much about the environment.
Me too.
Even though I like the environment, I'm more of a person that want to enforce environmental compliance than really even knowing all of the details about environment. So I really appreciate Kemo and Famara talking about all of this. I think even from our ministry level, Ministry of Environment. I don't know that they put in the right person that really knows about environment to be able to really protect our environment. Because if they know,
they should put Kemo or somebody.
Exactly. If they know as much as Kemo is talking about in Famara, I mean, they will be protecting our environment. They should not let certain things happen. So, Kemo, I really appreciate the restoration that you guys are doing on the mangroves. That is very important. In fact, even if you look at all the things that you talk about, think about the birds that are also in there. They all benefit from all of this environmental aspects of it. So, very good point. This is a great topic, and I really appreciate your time. And like I said, I would encourage the government to get you on television frequently, once in a while, to have some, even if it's 30-minute program, half-hour program, talk about environment, talk about the importance of environment to us, because people don't know. They, like you said, people go in there to the mangroves and they cut them for even construction, building their roofs, and without realizing the damage that they're causing there. So there is a lot to talk about environment. And I think you're the key person that can really push the message, because there's a lot of people in Gambia that don't know. The lack of knowledge is the ignorance that I'm talking about. They're ignorant about it. And even the president doesn't know about all of this, because otherwise our government shouldn't be selling certain lands in certain area, which all impact our environment. If they know that the why behind everything is what they don't know. If they know why, they wouldn't do it. So bringing an education on television for people to see a series of environmental talks on television, talk shows on television once in a while, even if it's once a month, bring Kemo on television, talk about on GRTS, so people can watch and see how important is in the environment to our future. Otherwise, down the road, the next generations coming may suffer, and they are going to suffer if we don't take the precaution right now and protect our environment. So thank you. That's all I wanted to add to it. Thank you. Really, both of you and Famara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Famara, if you don't have anything, we can allow Kemo to wrap it up.
Yeah, I don't have anything, so just
well, just to say thank you for inviting me over to this insightful discussion, and of course, most of the time as well, we are on TV to kind of discuss this environment, but only occasionally. And sometimes most of these private TVs, even if you invite them to come to this event, they ask us to pay them to put us on the news. So even if I have all the millions, and I wouldn't pay, because I find it absurd to pay to be on the news. But this is the thing, there is still a stark lack of environmental education. Even if I go to high school students are still telling me about the problem of the ozone layer when it comes to climate change. So climate education in the Gambia is really very low, and that there are plans on board to see how this can be scaled up. Of course, even the government has incorporated climate change education into the national curriculum and all sectors of planning and development. But even agri-science teachers, social and environmental science teachers are still oblivious of the real or the current knowledge of climate change. So we're trying to change this, and it's going to take a lot of resources and a lot of digging. But this is something we definitely need to enhance. It's not just about the talking on the TV. And you mentioned about the hippos, Famara. I wanted to kind of add to it that, the idea was that every animal that comes from sea can be eaten. But this hippo was killed after several days. It was already blown up. It's not the hippo, it's about the fishes, they said. So we ate a hippo that was already decomposing. So I don't know what Islam has to say about that. They should really pay attention to that one, So I hope that, we can kind of also find a way to let people know what wildlife is. People here in Gambia, they find a snake, they will just kill it. They find because of habitat loss. So for me, this is the most serious problem that we are facing. If our children are not able to see antelopes, then, what would be the consequences? Maybe squirrels will go missing, rabbits will go missing. And for me, these are the things that make a place a place. Otherwise, Europe might just become the new Africa. In 2012, 8,000 Gambians alone filed for asylum in Italy alone. I'm not talking about Swiss, Germany, and all of these things. So at the end of the day, if we don't protect our biodiversity, there'll be nothing left here. I'll have to come and join you guys in Washington, D.C. because you get your food from the supermarket. It's already packed there. So we cannot risk this. So if we want to remain at home, if we want to live a dignified life, we need to take the issues of the environment very seriously, prioritize our children's future such that we can be able to, find our needs. Sustainable development is a practice that provides the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future to fend for themselves. So we must embed this in our thinking as we go further. And we will continue. Platforms like this are important. We can continue to enlighten government stakeholders so they can learn and also go with us. Sometimes I do know that it's a stark lack of knowledge that makes people to act the way they do. So the more we can keep on enlightening them, the better it is. But yeah, I hope that, they hear our message and they heed to this, and that, their hearts are open to kind of, accept and do what they should. So on that note, I want to thank you all, Momodou, Sam, and Famara. Thank you so much for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Well
time.
noted.
Really
And
appreciate
we'll
it.
have you another time. Really, this topic is really educative. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Famara. Thank you, Sam.
All right. Thank you all now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.